All right, we're going to read Wild Robot Escapes, The New Land. I'm here. This is it's behind my house. Some of you guys have been here for Evelyn's party. This is the hill up behind our house. This is a silo that is full of corn, or maybe not yet. Maybe it's empty now, but they fill it with corn, so that's kind of fun. And out there is where there's usually bison, but they came and got them a couple of weeks ago, last week maybe. They took them away to harvest the meat. So, but they'll bring more when it's time. The New Land. Zoom, vroom, shoom. Automobiles. Wait. So they crossed the bay. Zoom, vroom, shoom. Automobiles were gliding up and down. Sorry, it just seems sort of like we're starting a different scene, but yep, I guess this was happening. Automobiles were gliding up and down the road, passing fields and forests and clusters of houses. None of the passengers had any idea that a robot and a goose were watching from the weeds. Our friends had been hiding there for some time, waiting for the traffic to clear. But the automobiles kept coming. Roz noticed a drainage pipe that crossed under the road. The pipe was dark and grimy, but the travelers were getting desperate. Moving through this new land was difficult. There were more humans and robots and buildings and roads than ever before. Roz and Brightbill traveled far out of their way, in wide circles, just to avoid small towns. As the days passed, the scenery looked more familiar to Brightbill. He remembered flying over these lands on his first migration. He knew the towns would only get larger and closer together the farther they went. It would be much faster to sneak through the towns than to continue going around them. So, as night fell, Roz put on fresh camouflage, and with her son watching from the sky, she crept into a town. That sounds risky to me. Yeah, look at that. Terrifying beast. Oh, that's a super cute picture of a dog. Look at that. Peter Brown's illustrations are amazing. That would be a fairly simple one to sort of imitate and use as inspiration. So you could pause your video and do that if you're into it. Anyway, chapter 67, The Town. Pookie was a big little dog. Her body was round, her legs were short, her ears were long. Although the dog looked funny, she was serious about protecting her home. She slapped her front paws on the windowsill and stared into the night to make sure all was well outside. But all was not well. A new clump of weeds had mysteriously sprouted in the yard. Pookie needed to take a closer look. The dog whined by the back door until someone let her out. Then she scurried across the porch, down the steps, and over to the mysterious weeds. As Pookie approached, a raspy growl sounded in her throat. "Where did these weeds come from?" she said to herself, sniffing. "These weren't here this afternoon." The weeds rustled in the breeze, and that was enough to set Pookie off. The dog barked and barked and barked, and then, astonishingly, the weeds spoke to her in a clear, calm voice. "I am sorry if I disturbed you," said the weeds. Pookie stopped barking. "I was hoping to pass through without being seen," said the weeds. "But you saw me. You are a very good guard dog." Pookie resumed barking. "No, no, no, shh," said the weeds. "Please stop barking." But there was no stopping Pookie. The clump of weeds decided to move. Like some sort of monster, the weeds rose up on two legs and leaped over the fence into the neighboring yard. Felix had heard Pookie barking next door, and when the weedy monster landed in his yard, he started barking as well. So the monster kept going, leaping fences from one yard to the next. Every house in the neighborhood seemed to have a dog, and they all began barking about the weedy monster. Reader, you and I know that the monster was actually our robot in disguise, but the dogs never did figure out what happened that night. Roz finally slunk into the shadows behind a school building and listened to as the chorus of dogs settled down. "Well, that didn't go very well," said the goose as he landed beside his mother. "No, it did not," said the robot. "This will only be tougher in daylight." "I know. I will have to try something else." Early the next morning, the sun started rising. Automobiles started driving. Robots started running errands. However, one of those robots was not like the rest. Roz had picked every speck of dirt from her body, and now she blended in with all the normal robots going about their normal morning routines. Our robot was hiding in plain sight. Roz marched through town, turning left and right down the streets as Bright Bill watched from above. Along the way, she passed a wide variety of robots, all going about their business. There was even another Rosm robot marching around who looked identical to our Roz, except she was shinier and had a different unit number. It occurred to Rosm Unit 7134 that if anyone noticed her unit number, it might bring a swift response from the Ricos. But as she continued past houses and shops and humans and robots, there didn't seem to be any danger. Everything was going smoothly until she heard an airship flying over the town, or flying toward the town. Our robot felt something like dread as she waited for a sleek white ship to appear. If the Ricos found her now, there would be no escape. But the ship that appeared wasn't white, it was black, and it flew over without stopping. Roz was safe. And suddenly she was dreaming about airships. Returning to the island would be so easy with a ship. She and Bright Bill would climb in, fire up the engines, and be home in no time at all. But it was an impossible dream. There was no safe way for our robot to get an airship. She had to find some other way home. First, she had to find her way out of this town. So Roz focused on her surroundings and continued marching along the sidewalks, just like a normal robot. Chapter 68, The Station. At the edge of town, where the houses stopped and the countryside began, was a small train station. 2 platforms sat on either side of the tracks. Humans and robots were standing around waiting for the next train to arrive. Nobody paid any attention to our robot as she calmly marched past. When Roz was safely out of sight, she slipped into the woods where Bright Bill was hiding. The goose opened his mouth to speak, but the station bell started ringing. Speeding down the tracks was a passenger train. A whistle blew, the train gently braked, and a minute later it came to a smooth stop at the station. Passengers burst out of the train cars while others stepped aboard. The first 9 cars were reserved for humans and had wide windows and comfortable seats. The only robots allowed in those cars were service robots, who brought food and drinks to human passengers. All other robots were confined to the windowless car at the end of the train. "Where's it going?" whispered Bright Bill as he peeked out from the brush. "The sign says this is the express train to the city," whispered Roz. The goose turned to his mother. "We have to go past the city to get home. This train could save us a lot of time. We should hop on." The robot turned to her son. "I do not think that is a good idea. It is too risky." "Ma, I watched you walk through town and no one even noticed you. We'll be fine. Let's follow those robots into the last car. I'll find a hiding spot, and we'll be in the city before you know it." Roz had questions. "How large is the city? Do you know where to go? What if we get lost?" "Relax, Ma. My pigeon friend, Graybeak, lives there. She'll be happy to help us." A voice called out from the loudspeaker, and the last couple of passengers hurried along the platform. I'm going to check it out," said Bright Bill. With a quick flurry of wing beats, he fluttered out from the brush and onto the roof of the last train car. The goose lowered his long neck and looked through the open door. Then he looked back and waved for his mother to join him. A whistle blew, and Bright Bill waved faster. Roz had little choice, so she slipped out of the trees and marched onto the platform. "I'm here, Ma!" Bright Bill pointed down to the doorway beneath him. Everything about the situation made our robot nervous. Her survival instincts were tingling. Roz looked up at her son on the roof, and then she stepped through the train door. But before Bright Bill could flutter in behind her, the door slid closed and the train began to move. Holy cow. Okay, chapter 69 is the train, which we'll read next time. I hope you guys enjoy the beautiful day. I'll talk to you later.